Hi, this is Adam Gersowitz. I'm sending a link because I have a conflict on the final presentation day on Wednesday for my final project. So my final project is called Happiness in the Economy. So basically this came about because of all the talk in the media about reopening the economy from COVID-19 related quarantine and shutdown in order to, in the end, improve the lives of American citizens and, in effect, improve their happiness. So this got me thinking, what economic factors really impact happiness? So I'm going to examine that in my project. So I'm going to take the World Happiness Report in 2016, which has respondents from different countries across the world submit a scale 1 to 10 of how satisfied with their lives and how happy they are. And I'm going to relate that to various economic indicators, some of which come from the Economic Freedom Index, which can be found in the World Bank, and another from an article of wealth distribution factors, comparing the wealthiest to the poorest in a country, and seeing if any of these economic factors have a stronger impact on the happiness score than others. So in my data sets, libraries, imported the data, scraped it, cleaned it up a little bit, changed the names, changed some country names because that's the field I joined all the data sets on. So Korea South, not going to join to South Korea unless you make a little edits. So exploratory analysis. So I use this join country to map function to, I just wanted to see really quickly which countries had a high happiness score and a low GDP. And the reason I wanted to look at high happiness, low GDP is the happiness score uses GDP per capita as an estimate of how the economy impacts someone's happiness. It seems just like some sort of guess. So I wanted to identify high happiness countries and low GDP, which were also low GDP per capita, to identify some outliers maybe worth examining later on. So if you can see in the happiness score, the Americas and Europe are pretty happy on the scale. And then if you look at GDP per capita, America and Europe still pretty high, but the South America and Central America, pretty low GDP per capita when compared. So this might be an interest group of a high happiness country with a low GDP per capita to find a better economic indicator than GDP per capita in relation to happiness. So I ran this through a linear model. I took all of the models from the wealth distribution article that I web scraped, such as the Gini index, which looks at wealth distribution, median daily income, poverty rate. And the two statistically significant fields with the low enough P-score were median daily income and poverty rate. So this makes sense, lower the poverty rate, the higher the median daily income, the happier country will be. And I view this as kind of like floor, like you need these to have a happy country as far as economic indicators go. If you scroll down, I threw everything that was in the Economic Freedom Index into a similar thing, similar linear model. And I found that most of these weren't statistically significant. So I took the ones that were, and I put them in a more restricted model, and such as, freedom of labor, property rights. And I found that, there were some that were statistically significant. So I took those and I added them in with median daily income and poverty rate above into kind of a final data set to see which of these variables came up on the linear model as being the most statistically significant. And it came out that median daily income and poverty rate were really only the ones that were statistically significant, like pretty lowly practically significant. So there's more, there's more to happiness than economic indicators. But this makes sense. There's a floor that you have to meet with median daily income and poverty rate in order to have high happiness in your country. Scrolling down, it met the qualifications to use multiple regression analysis. You can see a slightly positive relationship between GDP and happiness score, stronger for poverty rate and median daily income. And then if we want to look at the Americas, the red is a low GDP here. So if we click on the Americas, they have a pretty high happiness score, but it seems like a low median income. But when you click it, it seems to be this inflection point where there's so many countries lower than them in median daily income. So they're really at this inflection point where happiness score begins to level out. So they seem to be at the top of the floor for median daily income impacting happiness. Similar thing for poverty rate here. If you select them, they are very low poverty rates and pretty high in the happiness score. And if you look at countries that have a similar GDP to them, such as these sub-Saharan countries, they have a much lower happiness score. And this could probably be attributed to their much, much higher poverty rate than the Americas. So in conclusion, daily median income and poverty rate are highly correlated with happiness index, which, is not groundbreaking, but I think it's good to reframe things through this lens and say, it's more about the median person than maybe the GDP per capita, which can be totally skewed by multi-billionaires. So it really gets a better heartbeat of how the economy is impacting the happiness of citizens as a whole.